Okay, can we get started, please? There we are. Oof. Okay. So I'm taking it that not everybody in this room knew each other before today started. So actually the level of noise is a really good indication that you're meeting new people. I hope you're talking about some of the things you've heard and you're inspired to think about what else and what differently you could do in the future. So the second session now is again about creating an inclusive environment. We're blessed with another brilliant set of panel members. We've got Sarah, Paul and Paul. And I'll introduce them as I did the last time in turn. So we can start with Sarah Dickinson Hyams. Sarah is Head of Equality Charters, the Equality Challenge Unit, and she's going to, I hope, tell us about how Athena SWAN and the Race Equality Charter marks can help an organisation build a more inclusive environment and give us some insights into, in the application submissions, some standout examples of excellence in creating an inclusive environment. Sarah.
Thank you. Can I just start by saying it's fantastic to see such a diverse audience here today. I don't think I've ever spoken to an audience this diverse, so well done to the Royal Society and thank you all for turning out today. So Athena SWAN, just a little bit of background, was founded in 2005 as a recognition scheme of excellence in women's employment in science, technology, engineering, maths and medicine. In 2015, this all changed, and after consultation with the sector, in a nutshell, it's basically no longer just about women, it's no longer just about academics, and it's no longer just about science. So we have expanded the charter to include ASPAL departments, or Arts, Humanities, Social Science, Business and Law. We also have included professional and support staff, and this was felt to be really important because professional and support staff play such a massive role in the culture of an institution or of a department. We also include, and this is just at institutional level, questions around what policies are in place to support trans staff and students. And also at institutional level, we ask institutions to consider intersectionality. And we're particularly interested in the intersections of race and gender. Also in 2015, ECU trialled a Race Equality Charter, or REC, and this was successful and it was officially launched in January this year. In fact, we just had our 9th bronze award holder. So both REC and Athena SWAN require applicants to carry out a thorough self-assessment process. Neither of them are box-ticking exercises. It's about understanding your policies, your practices, carrying out self-assessment and identifying the good, the bad, and in some cases, maybe the ugly, and putting in place strong actions to address the bad and the ugly and can carry on the good. We're not specific about exactly what we want you to do, but we do ask questions around things like organisation and culture. So asking you to consider what effect things like your core hours and meeting times will have on your staff, what your committee structures look like, whether or not they're rotated, what roles individuals play. We require staff consultation in both charters to back up your statements and show that you have an understanding of your culture and of your staff and what is having an effect and what's having an impact. And this has been mentioned already today, but one of the really big important things is requiring senior level buy-in. You need clout in order to make culture change stick. And so within both application forms, we ask for a letter of endorsement from the Vice-Chancellor or from the head of department, and we insist that there's senior level buy-in on any self-assessment teams. The charters aren't about fixing women or fixing individuals. If there's an issue with your promotion process, we're not looking for you to put in place workshops specifically to, say, address specifically for women because it's the women who aren't applying. We want you to stop and have a think about whether or not it's that women are lacking confidence, so they need something, or actually whether there's an issue with the process itself. And I guess one of the sort of other things that is really important and how it helps with an inclusive culture is it's also a great framework for identifying good practice and actually helping you formalise this. So there's quite often lots of really good things going on within institutions or within departments around race equality, around gender equality, but actually there hasn't been a tool to enable you to show what's going on and disseminate this information. And I think the charters really help you to do that. In terms of some examples of good practice, so with Athena SWAN now, we have 618 award-holding institutions and departments. So it was really difficult to actually sort of pull out some specifics. So I went back to the most recent round. So I'm sorry if there's people in the audience who've put in applications, who are sitting there going, what about mine? What about my example? This is just one that we pulled out from the recent round. And this is from King's Department of Palliative Care, Policy and Rehabilitation. And so they carried out a staff survey, and they found that 70% of their staff had noticed a positive change as a result of Athena SWAN, and 83% of staff agreed that leadership in the department was aligned with equality, diversity and inclusion principles. And they gave quite a few examples of what they'd done to achieve these results. So they changed their master's course, so their MSc can now be completed over 2 years, full or part-time respectively. They added a certificate and diploma in palliative care for students wishing to study with greater flexibility. And they found that many students had used this alternative approach to access core and optional modules within the MSc curriculum, achieve credits, and then later progress towards a full MSc. And the student feedback they got had identified that the flexible method of course delivery as one of the major attractions of the programme. King's are also striving to improve inclusivity and have increased the range of available scholarships to include those from low and middle income countries. And one of the major research themes they have is improving equity of access to palliative care. And so they are committed to integrating Athena SWAN into their research and have recently won funding for national research to improve access to palliative care for people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual and or trans. And as part of this project, they are running workshops for all academic, clinical and professional services staff and students on sexual identity and gender variance, equality and diversity. From REC, one of our, in fact, our most recent award holder. This is from Abertay, and Abertay is a small institution in Dundee, so it's not a large Russell Group or large institution in central London. And the aims and objectives needed to be really specific for them. So within their REC application, they realised that they couldn't double the ethnic diversity of their staff in the next 3 years. It simply wasn't a realistic aim for them. However, they decided to focus, in addition to some other actions on recruitment and selection, on curriculum and pedagogy. And so they're reviewing their curriculum to see how it can further consider race equality and how inclusivity can be embedded in the pedagogical practices. And they see that this is going to be of benefit to all students in a globalised society.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so now we'll turn to Paul Sesay, who's Chief Executive of the National Diversity Awards UK. Paul, we've already heard an awful lot, but really what I'd like you to tell us about is what you consider to be the key essentials of rolling out any inclusion policy. And similar to Sarah, in your experience with the National Diversity Awards, tell us a standout example of excellence amongst your nominees.
Okay, I just want to reiterate, it's fantastic to be in a room full of diverse people. It probably is one of the few conferences that I've been where it's so diverse in its entirety. So well done to the Royal Society for doing that. My name is Paul Sesay. I'm from the National Diversity Awards. It's the largest diversity awards ceremony in the UK, all about highlighting positive role models, community organisations and people that do exceptional stuff in the community with little or no regard for themselves. It's just a fantastic, I'm so blessed to be the founder of it. And we're highlighting averagely 26,000 community organisations and votes every single year from Land's End to John O'Groats. It's a fantastic award to be involved with. It started off with basically, I looked at what was out there and there was lots of award ceremonies that was promoting diversity and inclusion, but it was either very singular or the same people going to the same award ceremonies, patting each other on the back saying, oh, we're very diverse, we're doing a great job. And I really didn't feel that was making a difference in society. So I decided to do the National Diversity Awards to highlight the unsung heroes, like I said, that are doing great stuff. And it's been a fantastic journey. There's been people from every kind of diverse background that's there. So we're talking LGBT, race, disability, age, gender. And until you've experienced the National Diversity Awards, you basically, you don't know what, it's one of the only few award ceremonies that basically is diverse, like the Royal Society's conference here today. So when you're looking at policies and procedures with the National Diversity Awards, and we do other things like that, we do the Excellence in Diversity Awards, we do the Inclusive Top 50 UK Employers, which we just announced, and that's looking at diversity as a whole, rather than a very singular strand. And basically, the Inclusive Top 50, we rolled out 3 last year. We have had over 100 companies that submitted. It was a fantastic response, and as a result of that, West Midlands Police was one of the police forces that got into the top 10, and they got an increase of £250,000 in their diversity budget as regards to being in that inclusive top 50, so that's phenomenal for them. I look at diversity and inclusion more of a holistic point of view rather than policies and procedures. But if you was to do policies and procedures, you look at why you're doing diversity and inclusion. A company's got to look at, are you doing it for the right reasons? I mean, you don't want to do it because it's the right thing to do. You've got to do it because you believe diversity and inclusion is going to enhance your organisation. It's going to enrich the senior management and boardroom level, and it's also and operational level. So basically, you have to do it for the right reasons. And have you got the right people to drive the policies that you're going to do? That's really important. It's okay you're doing all these benchmarking. It's okay that you do that, but if the right people aren't in place to drive these policies and procedures to get into the communities, then you've got a big problem. And lastly, look internally about what you're doing. So within senior management, does your staff feel valued within your organisation? Operational level, boardroom level, and senior level as well, because that's really important. And I really feel that we've got such a long way to go. When we did the Inclusive Top 50, it was really surprising how the lack of diversity within organisations at senior management and boardroom level. I can talk about many organisations that BME is just not represented at all. For instance, I'm from Liverpool, and the further north you go, there's less diversity. My missus is an accountant. She works for John West, and she's the only black person on the whole floor. She worked at Trinity Mirror, which is the Mirror Group. She was the only black person on the whole floor there. And the same goes as further north you go, there, Newcastle, Scotland, you don't see much diversity. And the same is with disability, the same is with, LGBT, especially trans. So when you're writing these policies, make sure that you are doing something that is going to be of benefit, not only to the organisation, to the community in which you serve. Diversity is not just in London, it's outside of London as well. So when you're putting all your budgets into diversity inclusion, make sure that it's reaching on a national scale, because you're missing out on a whole breadth of talent that's out there. Because, at the end of the day, I know lots of talented people from Liverpool, for instance, and Manchester and Leeds, where I'm from, and they've got the university degrees. They've got everything that they needed to get, but the opportunities still aren't there for them. I spoke at a UCAS conference, well, I think 2 years ago, and there was 1,000 people in the room. It was in Wales, and I asked everybody to stand up. And I said, everybody sit down who's from a senior management. Everybody stay sitting down if you're not senior management or boardroom level. So half the room stayed stood up. And if you're not from an LGBT, race or disability background, please sit down. There was 3 people at the end of that discussion stood up at the end out of a room of 1,000 people. So that's how far we have to go. There's another example of, especially in education and Liverpool I'm going to talk about. There's 2,000 black and ethnic minorities. There's 2,000 teachers in Liverpool, round about that mark. And there's only 11 black teachers in the whole of Liverpool. And so you get the distinction of what we need to do. Policy and procedures are great. We need to do them. We need to make change, but we also need to sit there, get deep in the communities so that we can make a difference within these communities, so that they have the confidence to actually apply for jobs within major organisations such as yourselves.
Brilliant, thank you. So I can see everybody thinking now about who they know and who they were taught by. Now I want to turn to Paul Walton. Paul's Professor of Chemistry at the University of York. And I would say Paul is a practitioner of some of this. So Paul, I'd really like you to tell everyone today about how you got the whole of your department involved in Athena SWAN. And it was the first Athena SWAN Gold Department. And then to touch on how academia can better include mental health when considering creating inclusive environments. Paul.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. I should perhaps first start by saying I'm here on behalf of lots of people, not just myself. And when you say how do you get the whole department involved, then lots of people have been involved in the diversity effort that we've been pursuing now for quite a few years. How do you get everyone involved? It's quite hard to answer, but I've tried to boil it down to six words. I shall explain each word in a bit more detail. The first word is openness or listening. The second word is leadership. The third word is patience, brackets, lots of it, close brackets. The fourth word is evidence base. The fifth word is benefits. And the sixth word is champions. Now, if I go back and openness and listening, it is true that, and there's good evidence to support this, that an open and accountable department that listens to its own mistakes has helped us bring in policies and practices which have helped reduce gender inequality. I can think of several examples of that, but a couple come to mind. One was our maternity policy, which we didn't quite get right when we brought it in, first of all. And secondly was our adoption policy, which was well-intentioned, but again wasn't quite right. And it was through an openness and listening to people saying, well, Paul, that's not right, that helped us significantly in the journey. Second word, leadership. I think this echoes a lot of what other people have said in the previous panel and this panel too. And it comes in various guises: senior level buy-in, senior management being committed to it. Perhaps our phrase would be leadership, and that organisations or departments or institutes make it a statement of purpose, that they're going to be wedded completely to equality for all the reasons that we've discussed, principally bringing in talent, and that they're simply not going to be shaken from this. I would say that we benefited very significantly from leadership in the department over many years, that made equality a key part of what they did. Third word, patience. I think we actively started working on equality in 2000, so what's that, 16 years ago, and probably before that as well. And it has taken time. It has taken time. The first few years were, I wouldn't say tough, but the message was finding hard to take root in various places. And people needed to be convinced. Some people took a long time to understand the benefits of equality practice. I would add to this that all the evidence base would suggest that 10 years is the minimum time over which you can expect to see any significant culture change, and I think we would affirm that one way or another. So yeah, you've got to be in it for the long run. Fourth words, evidence base. Being a science department, you might imagine that we would go to the evidence base to begin with. I'm not sure we did, but eventually we learnt that turning to our social science friends and colleagues and asking them the question, what's important when it comes to driving through equality, opened our eyes to the significant evidence base which exists, particularly on gender equality, less so in other equality dimensions, from which we could draw, right? And a lot of our early efforts on unconscious bias, now going back a few years, came from that. And I am grateful and remain very grateful for the openness of that literature. And, I have several exhortations, but one of them is to avail yourself of the evidence base that's out there. Fifth word, benefits. That's not social security benefits, that's benefits. And this message has come out through others. Our equality work has benefited everyone, even if it wasn't apparent that some people may benefit from it. What do I mean by that is it's clear that equality for us has brought in talent. I have multiple anecdotes where people have said they'll come to work at the chemistry department at York because of the equality efforts of the Athena SWAN Gold Award. For us, it has been, to put it bluntly, a talent magnet, and for that we've really benefited. But I would say this too: it has helped us work in diverse, wider, better teams in a collaborative manner, which leads to better science, leads to better productivity, to put it in a business way, and it's a winner. And so people have begun to understand that pursuing diversity leads to wide benefits. And the last word, champions. I was just, if I can characterise the department at York, it's a large department. There's probably about just over 200 what you might call staff. There's probably about 600 undergraduates or graduate students. I would say amongst that group of people, you can readily identify champions. And what do I mean by champions? These are people who go out there, overtly speak, passionately speak about equality. And they do this in the coffee room, they do this outside, they do this within the place of work. I can think of one example, my colleague David Smith, who's a professor of chemistry in the department, who speaks so convincingly about LGBT matters that he's drawn in so many others. And these people are important. These people who catalyse and discussion and provide a space for these types of discussions to go on have helped us change the culture. So that's how we've tried to get people involved. How can academia concentrate better on mental health? This was a tough one. It's quite interesting listening to the previous panel. I would say, as an academic department, we're quite a long way behind tackling this particular issue. It remains a difficult area for us, and one where I can't give you answers, but I can give you some experience. And what's that experience? That experience is that openness for us has been key. We do talk about mental health. It's been a fairly recent thing for us, but openness has been key. As one of my colleagues put it, you can't make progress with things like mental health if you view it as a disability if people keep it quiet. And it's interesting that one can generate an open culture where people are prepared to speak about it. The other thing I would add, and I think this is true, where we have spoken about mental health and LGBT matters for that matter and disability, much of this has stemmed from our earlier work on gender equality. And it's an interesting discussion about intersectionality, which maybe will come up later, about how you tackle the equality problem. Do you begin with one and then hope things would follow later? Or do you begin with them all? I think the message we would take from York is beginning with one, which was gender equality, and maybe another disability, has fostered the openness and discussion about other equality dimensions, and I'd be interested to discuss that further. So mental health, yes, mental health first aid, an openness about mental health and talking about mental health, an awareness of mental health is something that we have begun, but we're not in Doncaster. I think we're in Bristol on that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Again, a real tour de force from our panellists. I'm now going to ask them one difficult question, because everyone's talked on what they've achieved in their awards or in their department. I want to ask each panel member to reflect on what they found the most challenging thing about diversity and what they've been trying to achieve, either in their organisation or themselves personally. Let's start with Sarah.
That is a difficult question. I think what's most challenging, I think actually it's getting the buy-in all the time. It is, and I think that's what the awards do very well that I run, because quite often certainly the people at the top, and I found this when I did my work for the Royal Society of Chemistry, where we went and carried out site visits in chemistry departments, that actually what the head of department or the senior management team, what they thought was going on within the department actually wasn't. And as you sort of trickled down and interviewed the different staffing groups down to the postdocs and the PhD students, they had vastly different experiences, surprisingly, than those at the top. Mm-hmm. And so I think the part of the awards where you actually have to get all your data together and you have to look at it and sort of sit there and go, oh, actually, there are issues in the pipeline. Actually, our staff consultation data shows that our staff aren't happy, that there are gender differences, that people have less understanding around criteria, are feeling harassed. Then that's the moment that you get the buy-in and the understanding. So I think that's been the biggest challenge and is the biggest challenge.
And Paul Sesay.
I think the biggest challenge for organisations is admitting that they've got a problem sometimes. I mean, when you do surveys internally, the senior management and boardroom level don't want to really recognise that they have got a big problem. So if you haven't got a diversity inclusion manager within the organisation, or diversity training is not operated against operational level, and various things like that, I think organisations really struggle with that. We've done a few surveys for organisations, and they found it really surprising how much their BME staff, their disability staff, thought their lack of opportunity was within their organisation, and they didn't know quite what to do about it. Obviously, that's where consultants come in, and great programs like yourself and the ENEI come in and help organisations do that. But I think the challenge is really getting into the nitty-gritty of your organisation, and recognising basically what problems you have and dealing with them, and you can only solve a problem by recognising what the problem is.
Okay. And Paul.
It's really interesting listening to Sarah and Paul here, because I think I have the same answer. And we didn't. No, not. I would say that yes, we've had resistances, but typically they've been little pockets of resistance here and there, and always a small number of folks. But where the resistance has been conspicuous has been at the more senior levels of the organisation, not at the very top. Our vice chancellors have been extraordinarily supportive, but maybe at different points. And whether it's a lack of understanding, a lack of knowledge, a lack of will, it's hard to say, but these folks have significant influence over the way that people behave in the organisation, and convincing them to be leaders in the matter has been hard.
Okay, brilliant. Right, so let's open it to the floor now. Are the questions, and we will end with the magic wand question for this panel as well. Let's take a question there.
Hello, Martin Hollins from the STEM Disability Advisory Committee. A question for Sarah. You've talked about your 2 charters. Do you have plans for a charter for disability in diversity?
We do keep being asked about this. At the moment, not, because we did consult with the sector and they wanted to see, and forgive me, I know the 2 ticks scheme has changed its name recently. They wanted to see what was happening with that, but also whether or not the element of intersectionality would later on develop to cover disability as well, and whether or not institutions would be able to start using the data there within Athena SWAN. So currently at the moment not. However, if the sector demands it in the future or starts to show more interest in the future, then of course we would respond.
Question there.
Carl Allen, a member of the public and a pensioner actually, as was said. A question for Paul. Paul, as you move...
Paul Sesay or?
That one. Yeah.
Paul Walton.
Yeah.
Paul Walton. Okay.
Okay. As you move through the, what shall I say, stages of achieving the goal, you would have come upon exceptions, and I've been classed in various ways as either an exception or a first model or a role model, no model, production model. But well, you move from production models to actually having, what shall I say, minority membership of the organization. You have, you roll them off the production line, so to speak. But in what you were doing, what was your experience in terms of how I described it? Or was that what you were doing, another sort of experience?
I think I have 2 answers to that. How have we mainstreamed diversity thinking? And I think you characterised it as no to role to production model. I would say that has grown up simply by people getting involved. That's simple as that. But let me turn the question around slightly. How have the resistances evolved to what we've done? And I would say we've been through 3 phases. The first resistance was there isn't a problem, right? The second resistance for gender was it's a woman's problem. And the third resistance is not a problem I should worry about. And I wonder if that overlaps with your no, role and production. For each of those, I would say there have been 3 answers. For there isn't a problem, the data make it clear that there is a problem. And goodness me, we had some data today which reveals the problem. Maybe that then moves from no to role. Then it's a woman's problem where people don't recognise that they don't have their own role to play in it. That's maybe where role models make a difference. And indeed, I think we've seen some of that. And then this last one, it's not my problem. And it's interesting how the discussion has moved on late about how diversity really, or lack of diversity really is everyone's problem, because it leads to lack of talent and lack of ability of an organisation to meet its challenges. So I would characterise it in a slightly different way. But to encourage everyone and myself, I think, is that I think at each stage we found some type of response which would help address those let me call them pushbacks.
I also think it's role models is an important key within organisations as well. They've got to be really visible within organisations to push out to marginalised people as well. So I just want to add that one. Thank you.
Other questions from the floor? You've seen someone.
Hi there, my name's Kim. I'm here to represent the Institute of Physics and Engineering in Medicine, but I'm a jobbing NHS physicist. My organisation have really embraced the whole equality and diversity project, I guess it is for us. We're starting slowly, and I am struggling to convince a few people of the benefits. And I think having award schemes like Athena SWAN and such can really, really help, because people are quite keen to get badges and collect them up. And I'm just wondering, for me in a professional body, so it's not an academic body, it's a professional body, what sort of awards are there out there that I can encourage my leaders, my other trustees to aim for? Because I don't think Athena SWAN suits us. I'm not sure if the National Diversity Awards are more for companies. Do you have any ideas?
Who wants to take that?
We do the Excellence in Diversity Awards as well, which looks at cross-sector as well, so it's within private sector, public sector, housing, education, and charity. And the reason why we do that is because I looked at the awards again, there was nobody doing across different sectors, and then you can create, best practice within different sectors. So, for instance, the third sector find it hard to get men within the organisations, so, and then the charity sector and housing sector has a high proportion of BME staff within that, but is not filtering through to the senior management levels as well. But there's lots of different awards out there, some more genuine than others. And again, you've got to really vet them out, because, you don't want to be in the same room with the same people, patting each other on the back, giving each other awards because you've given the most money to that organisation. That's not what awards is all about. Awards is about highlighting the best people within an organisation and what they're doing with diversity and inclusion. And I feel I've got a genuine passion for that. One thing that I want to do, my vision is, we've got the National Diversity Awards, so we've got 26,000 nominations every single year that we do, and we do the Excellence in Diversity Awards, which is about organisations across different sectors. Eventually, what I want to do is mar the two together, so the organisations can then get the talent from the community organisations. So there's no question that we can't get a diverse workforce within that organisation, because that is what's needed. And so I can only talk about my awards, but there is other good awards out there. I think you've really just got to do your research and see which ones are genuine and which ones are just about a money-making exercise to keep the chief executive really rich.
Do you want to say any more, or you?
Only that we get approached quite a lot in Athena SWAN at ECU to explore other sectors, and in fact the NHS is one that we've got quite a lot of interest in at the moment, and in fact there's a possibility that we might be looking to trial it in the NHS at some point. So if you want to have a chat afterwards over lunch maybe, then I can fill you in on where we're at with that.
Brilliant. Any more questions? One right at the back, and then I'm going to wind this session up.
Afternoon, Jiten Patel from the Open University. This is a question for Sarah, if I may. Regarding Athena SWAN, this is my personal opinion, but I do feel sometimes that universities are left to sort of think about it as being a bit of an exam, and you either pass or fail at the end of it. And I'd like to understand how the ECU is going to address a more collaborative approach as we move forward.
A more collaborative approach. So, I mean, part of what we do, or have done, is we have built regional networks to get institutions to talk to one another there, to support each other and share good practice. We've made quite extensive use of the Athena SWAN JISC mail, and so people in different departments, different institutions who have questions around suggestions for changes in policies and practice, they can email the JISC mail, and this happens quite a few times a week, and it's great because people in the sector respond, sharing what they're doing, explaining the difficulties that they've had as well. So I think we are, and we do try take a collaborative approach. It's not a zero-sum game with Athena SWAN. There isn't X number of applications or X number of awards that we hand out. So, in effect, everyone could achieve an award. So I don't think it is about sort of success and fail. And I think possibly we need to articulate more that even going through the process itself and putting in an application is a step in the right direction, and you should be applauded for that. And We also run surgeries to support those that are unsuccessful with their applications, and you do get written feedback, and we're always happy to chat through and provide suggestions on what you can do sort of moving forward.
Paul, did you have any observations?
I did. I noticed it at the time, but I will be brief. It's interesting your comment about passing an exam. I'd not heard that before, and I've spoken to quite a few different organisations that understand the difficulties and demands that an Athena SWAN application has with it. But I would say most, and I'd hope this is what Athena SWAN and the ECU had designed, had used it as an opportunity to have a deep, long, hard and honest look at themselves when it came to equality. And that's perhaps where the difficulty, the exam, quote unquote, comes, is uncovering what about yourself.
Brilliant. Okay. So I've got my magic wand question for the three panellists, and I'm going to start with Paul at that end this time and work the way through, just to give you fair warning. And that's, having all of the experience you've had, if you could wave a magic wand, what one thing would you point people to do, to think about for awards or for organisations that were trying to develop an inclusive environment?
I think, again, I would say, look at why you're doing the awards. My vision is that everybody, irrespective of what background you are from, have the same opportunities. It's not a hard concept to grasp. And I think all organisations should really take that concept on board. I'm not sure if I agree that you should do one particular thing, either gender or disability, and then it will all come together, because then, it could take 3 years for that to come together, and then race gets left far behind, as what's happened in the last couple of years. So we've had a lot on gender, and we've had a lot on LGBT, but race and disability has been woefully bad within organisations. So I think if we look at equality, my dream is look at equality as it is. Look at this room here today. We've got some fantastic people here that are all doing amazing stuff. So equality works. And when you come to the National Diversity Awards, you've got everybody in one room. You haven't just got one particular type of person. You've got transgender, you've got LGBT, you've got AIDS, you've got disability. You've got 500, 600 people in a room, all celebrating who they are and be proud of what they are. And that's a phenomenal thing. And nobody can tell me that diversity doesn't work in this country, because it does.
Paul?
Yeah, apart from money, I mean, we need money. I would say the key thing is realise the battle is won in the margins. It's the small day-to-day victories that ultimately mount up and make the difference. And so coupled to that is this word I keep coming back to, is patience. Keep at it, keep sticking at it.
Brilliant. Sarah?
Time. Don't rush it. It's going to take time, as Paul said, to get an inclusive culture. So you need time to look at your data, you need time to look at your evidence, and you need time to understand the issues if you really are going to progress and create an inclusive culture. So please don't rush it.
Okay, so I want to conclude by thanking the panel members today. I think my observations from the whole of this morning's session were, I hope that everyone's had food for thought. This should not be something you forget when you go home tonight. This is stuff that you boil around for a long time like a good stew. I think really important is the why, the value, the drives and the benefits, accountability and leadership, and the layers, and whether we can mix the layers or not is really important. Then finally, I would just like to say there was one magical word that I heard today, and it comes back to rail track. It's everyone. And that's what this morning's been about. How do we create a world of research and organisations that care about research, where everyone is valued and everybody contributes to the whole endeavour? And with that, I think I'd like to bring this panel to a close and thank the panel members very much. Thank you. I think you're on. Brilliant, thank you.
So can I add my thanks to the panel members and to everybody else for contributing this morning. And I think everyone is a very important concept and really part of what we're doing. So as you can tell, I get to do the good bits. I introduced Andrew Parker earlier, and now it's my pleasure to introduce to you some individuals and teams who have demonstrated innovation and leadership in STEM diversity issues. And the Royal Society Athena Prize was established earlier this year. It's provided by a gift to the Society. So the prize is awarded every 2 years for individuals and teams working in UK academic and research communities who've contributed most to the advancement of diversity in science, technology, engineering and mathematics within their communities. The recipients of the prize receive a medal and a gift of £5,000, and runners-up receive a gift of £1,000. So I'm going to ask the runners-up to come up and join me on stage, and as they come up, could I ask you just to hold your applause until we get them all up here on stage? Otherwise, you know, it'll take longer than it needs, and I know I'm standing between you and lunch. So could I have Professor Valerie Gibson? No, it's not Leslie, she's my colleague. Have we got Valerie Gibson? Yes, Valerie. Congratulations. And could we have Mateja Jamnik? Congratulations. Could you just stand? Yeah, fantastic. And after Mateja, June McCrombie. Mateja gets it for founding Women at CL, an initiative targeted at computer science, which has started to change the culture in computing departments nationwide. Congratulations. Got June? June is getting it for being the key instigator and first chair of the Institute of Physics Juno program. Congratulations. And could I just tell you what Valerie's getting it for? Because I forgot to do that, and you'll all have noticed, as have I. Valerie's getting it for her impact on the culture at the Cavendish Lab in Cambridge and at CERN in becoming more accepting of life beyond work and the introduction of a child policy. Congratulations. Now we have 2 more runners up. Photonics and Instrumentation Research Centre for acting as a role model for inclusiveness by promoting good practice and addressing cultural barriers both nationally and internationally. Do we have that group? Photonics and Instrumentation Research. I think we're a scroll short. I'll just have to give it 1 between 3. Can I give you congratulations? Thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you. Perhaps you 3 in the middle could hold that. And the final runner-up is Professor Paul Walton for making an impact through promoting evidence-based thinking in equality and as a prominent spokesman for equality in academia. Congratulations. Now, if I could keep you all here, because now we come to the prize itself. The winner of the 2016 Royal Society Athena Prize is the London Mathematical Society for the Women in Mathematics Committee in introducing a broad range of initiatives in the field of mathematics, resulting in a change of culture that has happened nationwide in mathematics. They will deliver a presentation at our next conference. I hope they know that, and that it doesn't prevent them coming on stage. Can I ask the Women's Committee to join me on stage? There is only 1 medal. I'm sure you knew that anyway. Congratulations, terrific. Very well done. Congratulations. Congratulations. Would you like to take the medal? So, thank you to everybody who submitted an application for the Athena Prize. These awards demonstrate many of the creative methods that are being used in STEM to support diversity. And I think everybody on stage here who's won an award is an example for all of us as to what can be done if we put our minds to it, and if, as Andrew Parker said, we all work together. So many congratulations. So I think I'm being instructed for you to go on the front of the stage. What would you like, Lena? I'm putty in your hands. Just tell me what to do. Oh, you want me in it as well? Right. Not sure that the medal is in there. Oh, there it is. It isn't. I thought it was a fake. Now, all that remains is for me to say enjoy your lunch and see you afterwards.